Hello, I'm Richard Emmett, the Program Director of the Blue Ridge Music Center, and I'd like to welcome you to our discussion series, Deep Roots, Many Voices. This series is part of a project by the Blue Ridge Music Center exploring diversity and inclusion in roots-based music. In this discussion series, we pair two musicians in each episode to talk about issues related to race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, how these issues have been part of their personal stories, and the importance of celebrating diversity in the music world. These discussions highlight contributions to American roots-based music from the many voices that make up our nation and give us hope for a rich and diverse musical future. The series was coordinated and conceived by Blue Ridge Music Center Associate Director Marianne Kovatch, who also moderates these discussions. I hope you enjoy the series. Thank you for joining us. And now here's Marianne to introduce you to our guests.
Hello, and welcome to Deep Roots, Many Voices. I'm Marianne Kovatch, the Associate Program Director for the Blue Ridge Music Center. Today I'm speaking with Sam Gleaves and Joe Troop. Sam is a multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, performer, and instructor, and is also director of the Berea College Bluegrass Ensemble. I first met Sam when he was a teenager just learning to play, and I've seen him grow as a musician, singing, writing songs, and performing as a solo artist. Also a musician, singer, and songwriter, Joe is known for his multicultural approach to music. He speaks Spanish and Japanese and has lived all over the world, most recently in Argentina. I first met Joe in 2017 when he and his band, Che Apalache, traveled from Argentina to Southwest Virginia as part of their first U.S. tour. Since the pandemic, Joe has returned to the U.S. to live. He's been writing songs of social justice and performing with the band, the Joe Troop Trio. In this conversation, Sam and Joe talk about issues facing musicians who identify as LGBTQ and how their own sexual identity has informed their songwriting and performing. Here they are, Sam Gleaves and Joe Troop.
How can we glean off the best parts of these spaces and move forward, and also be class conscious and not exclude the working class? Because oftentimes in this debate, the working class gets excluded. That's a very important part of your work, Sam, is that you're not, you're being true to where you're from and your people. I mean, it's like that in the debate of the, corporate gay LGBTQ stuff, that whole world definitely excludes working class people. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I will say that what I would like to see is a less of an identification with Appalachian culture as ours, as like this, but more of like an openness to be like, oh, that's a really cool thing that happened in humanity. Like, take a step back from ourselves and be less identifying with what we do and say, I ended up doing this because this was what I had access to. But if I had been born in Afghanistan, I would never have done this. If I had been born in Haiti, this would not be what I was doing. And that openness to the idea of us being one people, human beings being one, the world is one kind of concept. If people can take that to heart, but not in this superficial buy it at the hippie store, made in China way, but like a real, like, I'm going to do what I can to come into contact with new stuff and make a sacrifice in order to make sure that other people can be exposed to that too. I think musicians, we can really influence society by doing these things. Along, the same thing. Conversely, when you start involving yourself with other cultures, you're also like the oddball out, and you're playing, like in my case, I've been in all kinds of situations that I never dreamed I would be participating musically, and I'm like, oh my God, did I mess this up? And they're like, no, that was great. And I'm like, okay, cool. I've never been to, San Luis Potosí. I don't know what son jarocho is supposed to sound like, but I'm gonna try. And then you'll feel the encouragement, like, oh, that's awesome. It's like, it's nice to learn other people's stuff too. So my hope for the future is that we all want to learn about each other in a general sense. Sorry, that was kind of long-winded.
No, that's beautiful, Joe, and I think we should lift up those sentiments. I think what you've said is those are beautiful seeds for a better future. I absolutely think so, and I think that we have to give more agency and more respect to young people and young artists. And one thing that I see now in myself and in our Appalachian music community is this expectation that we have to always be playing the old music, that we have to always be trying to replicate the past in some way, in a past that's very troubled and complicated and painful. And so what I would love to see and what I want to participate in is listening to the creatives and the artists that are in the Appalachian Mountains now coming up. These young artists, how are they expressing themselves? How are they telling their stories? And how can we come in to support them? And I think the most amazing and wonderful thing about the old time music community is that it's intergenerational. I think that has been really transformative for me to make friends with people that are 50, 40, 30 years older than me and hear their stories and see their perspectives, and we can learn together. We can learn from each other. And that's what I want to see more of, but in a way that where we don't tell young people so much, this is the mold, this is what Appalachian music is, this is what the mold is, and this is what's good, and that goes way back, that idea that Appalachian music is noble, ancient, Scots-Irish, roots or whatever, and it's always, Appalachian music has always been diverse, and we can look at that and learn that history and realize that there's a lot of pain and oppression that has happened, that we can create a different reality where modern stories from Appalachia can be told by people who live in here through music, art, of all kinds, and that's what I want to be part of. I want to mention the STAY project, the Stay Together Appalachian Youth. It's a network for young people in Appalachia who want to create a more sustainable future here, and the arts and cultural organizing is a huge part of the STAY project. They're connected with Apple Shop and the Highlander Center, High Rocks Education. I was fortunate to be a part of that group and want to lift up that network because I think it's a huge part of imagining that future that we want to see, where we can redefine what it means to be an Appalachian person and musician, and in a more sustainable and inclusive way.